r/AskReddit. Crazy girlfriends of Reddit, what's your side of the story? The fucker had about 1000.00 worth of my Blu-rays in his place. And I'll be damned if I wasn't going to blow up his phone numerous times a day until he fucking answered and gave them back to me. Edit, since people keep bringing it up. I had that many physical copies of movies 7 years ago when this happened. I don't have them now. Crazy ex-girlfriend here. I had an undiagnosed mental disorder and didn't understand how to handle emotions appropriately. Well, I guess the biggest reason is because he never told me the things I did that bothered him. Like it exploded at some point and things came to light that he never talked to me about once. Like for example, whenever he told me he was going out, I would ask if I could tag along. When everything blew up, this was one of his issues and I told him in disbelief, why didn't you just tell me you wanted to be alone? Why leave it at I'm going to XXX? I may have never understood if he was just tired of me or tired of us, or if all his reasons were justified. I honestly thought until that point we were okay. So I guess that made me crazy. I was young and naive. I was heads over heels in love with a guy. And in my mind, letting it go wasn't an option. In my dumb young brain, I thought somehow that if I talked and bugged him enough that I would somehow figure out the way to fix it. This included a drunken night of me showing up at his door and crying for 2 hours asking him why. To be fair, he did lead me on for a while, telling me we would be together after he got over his whole I wanna be alone period. Obviously that didn't happen. It definitely made me grow up a lot. I realize now especially that when a man decides he's done with the relationship, it's definitely done. So yay, basically I was just a crazy idealistic girl who thought if I asked enough questions I would get an answer I would want to hear. My ex posted pictures on Facebook of a girl wearing the sweatshirt I bought him. When I called him out on it, he quickly deleted the photo and called me a psycho. He literally tried to convince me I was crazy. Until I showed him the picture I took of that picture on my phone. He then said that he posted that picture because they had the same sweatshirt and it was such a big coincidence. Too bad that sweatshirt was from Goodwill for a football team at a random high school all the way across the country. With the same jersey number on the back. He then tried to tell me I was a psycho jealous bitch. Until I told him to cut the shit and he admitted to cheating on me with her multiple times. This guy was another kind of stupid. He was controlling and abusive. He had separated me from my family and friends and was pushing me, a very religious and socially conservative girl, into a sexual relationship I was not ready for. I started having panic attacks after sexual encounters before I literally ran away to Alaska. I was 18 at the time. He told everyone I knew that I was insane and had stolen a bunch of his stuff for drug money. Fun times. Crazy ex-wife. He continually lied to me after I caught him cheating after 6 years of marriage. I had proof and he kept promising me we'd work on the marriage and he'd quit talking to her. I just lost my shit. Made his life hell for the next year after that. So glad I never had children with him. At whatever point I finally let it go, I could just walk away with zero communication. I have Asperger's syndrome that went ignored until I was 18. I didn't know what to do with my emotions. Especially as he was emotionally mentally abusive and that left me completely bewildered, so I kind of just went mental. I was crazy for the first few months of my current relationship. I hated any time he was away and didn't have to be. I had never had a so that I wanted to be around 24/7. I've never been a dependent or clingy person. But he was emotionally distant. And I ended up being so attached and he couldn't understand. Since then, he has become more open and I have become more relaxed. We had kids. He didn't help and had a major addiction to screens. He also lied to me about everything. I grew up with a shitty abusive home life and had never had counseling. I didn't know how to handle all the crap I was dealing with and definitely acted incredibly crazy for a few years. The crazy even spilled over into my friendships. One day I woke up, decided to change, left with the kids, and got counseling. Best thing I could have ever done for myself and my girls. There was something in his eyes when he talked down to me that morphed him into my abusive brother. When he smiled like that while talking down to me, he was all I could see. I wasn't screaming at my boyfriend. I was screaming at my brother. I was meeting his friends for the first time. We all went out and then came back to his house for drinks. I'm talking to his friends, getting to know them and be social. He's upstairs and talking to another friend. Girl walks in and goes upstairs. I think nothing of it until his friend comes down and I'm being directed elsewhere. I realize they're trying to distract me, and of course since I'd been drinking, everything was a lot bigger of a deal. I throw a fit and go and knock at the locked door and might have started screaming, because what else was I supposed to do when he guy you're seeing is in a locked room with a pretty girl? I'm humiliated. Can't be talked down and I'm alone cause they're all his friends. Screaming, crying and the like. So that's how I became the crazy one. In defense of my crazy ex-girlfriend, she was damaged by her parents' criminal neglect and violent abuse. Girlfriend didn't stand a chance as an adult. She had her sweet side, but she had no self-control when under stress. People don't realize, when judging and ridiculing people who have bad behavior, that somewhere in that person's past there may very well have been physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. It can harm for a lifetime. Those people need patience, kindness, and understanding, not labels. I was called the crazy ex-girlfriend. We dated for 5 years, so we had many friends in common. I found out he was cheating on me through sexts on his Mac he left open while he was in the shower. I freaked out and I threw his stuff out of my apartment. He was living there temporarily until he could find a job. I wanted to be alone to figure my life out, so I turned off my phone so he couldn't contact me and took off work for a couple days. After mentally recuperating, I turn on my phone to some mutual friends calling me a bitch and I'm blocking you, etc. I find out that he had told them I threw him out of our apartment because he was talking to his sister and I thought he was cheating. He said I made him homeless. They believed him because I never responded to the accusations because my phone was off. So now they think I'm super jealous and I was crazy because I made him homeless. His parents live 45 minutes away. He started living with them. Luckily some people believed me, but for the most part, a lot of those mutual friends took his side. This happened 6 months ago and I still am getting flack for it. Too bad I never took screenshots of the sexts. I found out that my ex was a registered sex offender. The victim was a young child, on probation, considered at high risk to reoffend, and had several court-mandated restrictions and requirements. His dad and stepmother had helped him hide it from me for close to 3 years. I dumped him immediately and went no contact, but a friend of mine started dating him. She helped care for her sister's child, who was the same age and gender as my ex's victim. I told her and she confronted him. He denied it and said that I was a crazy jealous bitch who couldn't handle being dumped. She accused me of slandering him and trying to ruin his life. This was before the internet, so I showed her the court records I had copies of. She dumped him and outed him publicly. He then went on a campaign to trash me to anyone who would listen to his rants. I was crazy, a whore, cheated on him, had STDs, stole from him, physically assaulted him, turned tricks to support a drug habit. You name it, I did it. I'm just glad this happened in the early 90s, or he'd have put it all online and it'd have been a lot harder to put behind me. He never called me crazy, but if you ignore me for days after constant communication, I'm going to hide in a shadow on a street and wait for you to get home to see you with your fiancé you conveniently forgot to tell me about. He was addicted to heroin for years and that's why I was blowing up his phone constantly. I never told anyone what was going on with him, but if he wasn't where he said he was, he most likely had a needle in his arm. Back before he got sober, he let people think that I was just obsessive when in actuality I was legitimately worried about him. Doesn't really matter now. We don't talk to any of those people anymore, but my reputation still stands. I've definitely been crazy. Snooped through phones, emails, etc. Because I knew in my bones he was cheating. Confirmed. It made me realize I never want to be with someone who I feel like I need to snoop on. Walked away after that. If you try to put something in my mouth that I don't want there, for any reason, I'm going to bite it. Met this guy over the internet. We met. Slept together a few times. Told me about an ex of his who was so unhygienic that she would not use anything on the first full day of her period. And barely changed her tampons. He told Emmy that she has HPV. I went and got tested. Gino said I had 4 abnormal cells. I told the guy. He flipped it on me. Said I must have been the one to give it to her, even though she had full HPV. And broke things off with me. Then called me a crazy bitch when I called to scream at him for being such an asshole. He married her. Ick. Thanks for watching, mate. Make sure to smash that subscribe button for more high quality content.